Hello and welcome. This is Mary Buckham, and I'm sliding in at the last minute today, but I am here. And as you get here, feel free to let me know in the chat bar as we get going today. Yay, BA, lovely to see you. And Donna, two ends of the country, or basically Canada and along the Mexican border. I love it. And here's sunny Florida with Ginger. And Hillary in New York. Okay, we got all squares. So we have Washington State, New York, Canada, along the Mexican border, and Florida. We're doing good. Ginger says, you have a turtleneck. Is it cold there? Yes, it is cold. We're down into our 50s already. Good news, it stays pretty consistent from here on out through the winter, but I have a tendency to run cooler. Corinne's here from Cranberry, New Jersey. Lovely to see you, Corinne. I'm just going to get folks about one more minute to get signed in because I was slow getting here today, whatever time frame it is. And Sarah in Missouri. And Paulette is from Ohio. So we're kind of spreading this out. So that's really fun. So Corinne, you figured out how to get your name on your, so that I wasn't just talking to a blank Facebook image. Appreciate that. Okay, well, we're waiting for any last minute folks to be on board. If you have any specific questions about what you were discovering this week or being challenged by, feel free to go ahead and post a comment in the comment section. Looks like I may have some conductivity challenges here today. Okay, I want to give folks a heads up about the next batch of information that's coming. Tech Guy got most of it loaded in late last night because he was working late on it. But there will be actually a bonus, 2-lecture bonus here coming up. And the bonuses are going to be specifically about male body language, not in general, but male body language as far as flirting signals from men. And how to recognize them. And then the other one is the alpha male and how to recognize that individual. So those will be coming today along with quizzes, which I'm sure you're all excited about that. But it is going to be available here in a little while. BA says the hand-to-hand scene was very challenging to write. It took a lot of rearranging of phrases, action words, but it was a great learning experience. I'm really glad that you look at it that way because it's like, again, I'm going to use a golf analogy. And if you're going to someone to learn how to golf better, you're going to feel awkward when they make you hold the clubs in one way, and, not over your head as if you want to beat them, but just the changes in your stance, in your swing, in what you do. And so it is going to be awkward. And by accepting that that's just part of the process, you try it, you see if it works and how it works, and play around with it. And that flexibility helps you improve as a writer and get better as you move forward. So that's the whole intention. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that issue there. Ginger says she saw a new TV series last night and commented to her husband that the guy was too close to the woman. He was in her intimate space, 18 to 24. That's kind of the space that you can have. Real intimate is right in your face type of, but then the next space out, it still can be too close for a woman, particularly if that person is seen as a potential threat. And for a woman, a threat can be the size of a man. It can be an angry man. It can be someone that she doesn't know very well. And depending on her background, all of these things act as, and I hate this politically correct word, but it's true, the trigger for her. And so that's why we see oftentimes if a woman is feeling uncomfortable, what she does is step back. She tries to create some space between her and the potential threat. Not saying that he is a real threat. And a lot of men don't understand that. They don't get why walking quickly up and close to her, she pulls back. So I'm glad you noticed that, Ginger, last night, and that it does make a difference. And when we aren't aware of it, we can be putting our characters into vulnerable situations, and yet they don't feel anything about it. And the reader is going to feel uncomfortable and wonder why this character is not feeling uncomfortable. So Topaz wanted to raise an issue for you that you sent me an email today, and I'm having Tech Guy look into it and see what we can do on this end or how to address that. And you did post a posting for a homework assignment. I will respond to that this afternoon. So I didn't want you to think I was forgetting you. Sarah, can you talk about emotional mapping? Sarah, I don't know what you mean by emotional mapping. Again, we tend to use different terminology, but that's not one that I'm familiar with. So if you could indicate what you mean by that. When I teach courses on incorporating emotion, and when I teach, it's not in body language, but it's about the degrees of emotion. And you can have someone who is, for example, angry, and it's a low degree of anger that is more like pissed off or frustrated, and then it can escalate. And the high degree of anger is a very different emotion, yet oftentimes they're covered by the same word. So if that's what you're talking about, yes, we can talk about that. And then Corrine asked, where are you posting it? Tech Guy sent me a little note, so I'm clear this week. It is in the Teachable Classroom where you get your lectures. That's where the homework is. All right, that is, and I apologize because I may have confused people last week with where it is, because in our challenges, we just put it in the file section on the Facebook page. But when we're looking at folks in the classroom, we want to put it in an area that is, if you're going in there to listen to your lectures and get the other handouts, etc. That's why he was putting it there. So there was logic behind it. So BA is saying that she's not familiar with the term and would like any references. So Sarah, okay, what Sarah means by that is a sequential order of typical emotion as it relates to falling in love. That, I mean, think about it. Think about the stories that we're looking at, each other's stories this week. And we have people who are moving from friends to lovers. We have couples that are moving from previous relationships or coming from the past to the present. They're going to have a different sequence of, and types of emotions than somebody who's just meeting somebody out of in a situation that as a new person. So I don't think that there is. You may find, though, in reading the new adult books that you read, you may find that there's a very definite sense of they're going from this to that. But it so much depends on what else is going on with the characters. So Sarah, one of the other Sarahs, has a character who has a condition that she cannot necessarily read and translate other people's emotions. That character is going to have a very different response than someone else's character. So I don't believe that there is a sequential, because think about it, then it's all the same story. It is all feel like this here and feel like that here and feel like this. But if you start at the beginning of the story and the characters are very wary of each other, they're going to move from wariness in those beginning stages, 1, 2, 3, up to 4, before they're even going to start reacting and start feeling different emotions before they can get to something more. If you have a character that starts having a sexual relationship with someone, and that's all she wanted because she did not want any more commitment, or he did not want any more commitment, their emotional journey is going to be different. So I'm glad that that makes sense to you. That's a good question. And BA asks, do you have a verb, cinnamon verb resource you would recommend? In next week's class, one of the handouts is literally going to be a whole list of verbs, possible verbs that can be considered. And there's going to be a list of adjectives too, that just as kind of a thinking how you get started, how do you get in the mood. There's also going to be a list of music, and it's music all over the board, from rap to opera to country western and they're just starting points to help you start thinking, so that when you listen to music and you think that would be great to, in the creating, the wariness, the moving towards intimacy, the after intimacy, and things are going to be, what are you, things have changed, but are you going to, what happens next phase? So it is something that is specific to us and our characters. So you may not find anything on that list, but I'd love you to be able to give it a try. If you have Spotify, you could listen to a little bit of each one and say, yeah, Mary, this one isn't going to happen. But these are recommendations that others had recommended for great. Some of them are for erotic stories. Some of them are for much more that yearning type of phrase. So take the list, cross out anything that doesn't work for you, and you will start adding your own, and you'll have a tool that you can use moving forward forever. I like the BA is listening to Soviet classical music from World War II, because that really puts you into the time frame, puts you into the mindset of the time and the place. So that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But again, your list is going to be different than somebody that's writing a new adult novel or is writing a inspirational novel. May not be the same at all. There's a couple classical music references on the list, but that's the opportunity for all of us. Because have you been in a movie and thought, oh, I love this. This puts you in the mood for them getting more comfortable with each other. So go ahead and use it as a starting point. And the same with the list of verbs and adjectives. Again, it's just a starting to prime your own pump as the writer. So with that list, as you're reading some other book, some people love verbs that are did not expect it as a verb. Other people hate them. So you got to figure out where you are and what works for you. Ginger says, and I previewed Twilight last week, the theme music was so poignant and yearning. Absolutely, Ginger, because that, particularly the beginning books in the series, it was all about the emotion because it was written for young adults. It's all about the angst and the yearning, the wanting, but can't have type of thing. And that's where they actually had to work hard to fill in a plot to create that first movie in the series, because there wasn't much of one. Because it was just, be still my heart. I'm attracted. I can't, please, that type of thing. So the music, that's in movies. They don't have the internalization, but they do have the music. So there are some movies that you want to use the whole music list because it works so well. And Paulette, brilliant that you're listening to tango music for the book that you're working on about a couple who are tango dancers. Think about that dance. That dance in many ways is almost violent in the sense that I'm taking you, the movements toward it, but it's a very good, it belongs on the list of music to listen to with that push and the pull, the attraction, the pulling away, all of that is in the dance. So I don't know because I don't watch it, but there's that TV series about music, about dancing. And so some of those choices there might inspire somebody else as you move forward. So that's a great way to add to it. So my intention is to give you a beginning, to give you a sense of the possibilities. And then by showing you, you can then run with it any way that you want. And you'll notice on the handout of, that's not this week, but next week, the handout on the words, a lot of those you may not have. You may not have the need for a specific word for this story that you're working on, but you might need it for another. And there are no adverbs in there because adverbs tend to be the weakest of ways to describe something. Periodically, we need it. We need them. He spoke quietly. Okay, fine. But your powerhouse words are your verbs. So instead of saying, I took, or he was, if you use a verb, it makes it stronger and thus more emotional. Ginger says, I can listen to instrumental, but not music with words. It's too distracting. Does anyone else have this problem? I think a number of us have that problem. So that's where in the list, you may not want any of the choices, but you can actually type into Google and say passionate music, and you'll get a long where you can listen to them in the background. But yes, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter if it works or not for other people, because what you're trying to do is find out what works for you. And likewise, there's some people who are just amazing about creating actually playlists for their books, so that this is what inspired this, and this is these scenes in the book is what I was listening to, and I envy them to be that attuned and can translate the music directly to the writing. But yes, putting music on just to write a book programs you to start writing because you hear that music, but also certain parts of the book. There's going to be gentle parts. They're going to be a painful parts. There's going to be driven parts. Sarah here says, I have a playlist for each book. I hate you, Sarah. Not personally, but I'm in awe of that skill and talent. And she said she can't listen to any of them when plotting, editing, or anything technical. Absolutely, because it's a different side of your brain. You are using the playlist because it releases the emotion, that just those feelings. You can feel it more in your body with the music. That makes perfect sense. You don't need that when you're doing that much more. I never get these brain halves right, but the other side of your brain that is much more analytical. So there's been a couple of you that I've asked you to go deeper, because as an instructor, I've just seen enough, just like editors and agents, you can see enough where you can tell where someone's holding back. And they may not even realize that they're holding back, but you're not in the character's emotions or thoughts or background. You're in your own. And that's where I'll say, go deeper here. Is this the way this guy is actually going to think? Or is this the way this woman is actually going to feel in this situation? So using music can actually help you get to that point. Corrine says, as a painter, I used to select music and have to maintain it throughout the painting because it affected the colors. I never thought of doing that with my writing. But absolutely, you're right. That writers do it, painters, graphic artists, anyone who needs to keep that mindset. Or it can also be used for characterization, because I've written characters and written them almost all the way using Asian fusion music or Middle Eastern fusion, which is a selection of different things. But this was their personality. The music was a manifestation of who they were. And so it helped me stay in that character and not pull out. So there's a lot of things you can do with music. I also want to point out that at the end, as we go into this week and the lectures, etc., we're going to be all the way to the 9th stage of intimacy. All right. Some of you have actually gone there in your writing. Sometimes I pointed it out, sometimes I didn't. But the 9th stage is hand to body. Now, hand to body can be, we've had hand to head, we've had hand to shoulder, we've had hand to waist or the lower back. But we're talking here about if you're hugging someone, that's hand to body. You're touching more of their body. But there's a lot of options for hand to body. So, but the point is, when you get to hand to body, you're only 3 stages away from sexual penetration. So this is why I've sometimes pushed back on folks when you're at the very beginning, being you can give somebody a hug that's just a thank you hug, or I think I used an example from Eileen Dreyer in one of her projects, or I think she might have been writing as Kathleen Corbell. And the person reached out and hugged the person who brought back her purse to her. And it was a thank you hug. And it wasn't meant to be a sexual stage 9. But she pulled back real quickly because she saw that it made him feel comfortable and it made her feel too much aware of him as a physical being. So you can, again, modify these stages as needed, that you can kiss somebody as the relative kiss, meaning it's something that you would kiss a relative on the cheek or on the forehead. That's not the kind of kiss when we go to the mouth-to-mouth stage, which is stage 7. So, and some of you have found this where you go to post an example, but then you realize that example really isn't an example. It's about something else. And that's okay. If that's the situation, then find another posting. Or you can write something just to write it, to see how it works for you. What I don't want to see is being stopped or stuck because you might not have gotten it perfect first time through. You're here to learn, and learning means the opportunity to see where you're doing well, and where there's still opportunity for you to learn. So that's all it is. It's never to say you can't do this. But being aware of these 12 stages, that if you're already at stage 9, hand to body, you've really pushed the relationship forward. This is about where, if you're writing something that is no sex on the page at all, this is probably what you're going to go up to this point, but not beyond it. So that's why instead of going beyond it, you're going to revisit the stages multiple times during your book to show that there's this growing intensity, this growing awareness, this growing sense that the other is the one. And that can be all that your novel needs. There's no pressure to do beyond that. Okay. Good to see you here, Erin. I'm sure it's, dawn 100 where you're at in Australia. So I appreciate you're making the effort in getting here. Any other specific questions of challenges that people found up to this point? I know that I mentioned to a couple of you that you were rushing the hand, that it was not truly the stage of intimacy, because just because you hold somebody else's hand does not mean, oh God, 3:27 a.m. Okay, you get your gold stars this week for making this effort. And this is the type of commitment to writing and learning more and improving yourself that makes a huge difference. So you earn those gold stars for being willing to get up at those hours. We have some who are on the other side of the time zone that stay up to midnight and beyond in order to listen to these. So this is the kind of person you want to associate with for other people, because this is someone who is not going to take a no, in the sense that you're going to find whatever you can do to make something work for you to move towards your goals. And that's who you want to hang out with as a writer, is someone else who is challenging themselves and by default can be challenging you, versus the writer who is going to tear you down with nothing constructive to say, or is going to, the stronger you get as a writer, they're going to start pushing back because they don't want to work that hard. So just being aware of that. And you may find that the writers that you started this journey on are not the writers you're going to grow with and keep moving forward as a writer. But the cool thing is you get to meet new writers, and you get to meet writers that are doing what you want to do. So by rubbing shoulders, keeping in contact, and associating with more of those individuals, the better everybody is for it. I was going to quickly review the homework for this coming week. And again, we're moving into the 9th stage of intimacy this week. So your homework number 3, hashtag H4. And the homework is going to be, we're going to look at that stage 7 mouth-to-mouth kiss. Now, what I want specifically is not just any kiss. I want a kiss that is more about that it starts changing the relationship. Again, I'm going to keep you tight because it's real easy to have a page instead of having a short. But if you look at the examples, at the most, they're 2 paragraphs. Sarah says, I tried to apply the sexual tension stages to my women's fiction with romantic elements, and I realized that I don't really have much of any. Well, that's good. That's good that you can recognize that. I think the way it reads right now is the main character and love interest go from friendly to bedroom. Not much buildup, though. But here's the cool thing, Sarah, is that now you can show that buildup. What you're finding out is that particularly if you have women's fiction or the character has some experience, they might go from seeing each other to going to bed with one another, but it's not intimacy. So if one or the other wants intimacy, they're going to be impacting your character or her response to it. Because those first acts of just having sex is just about sex. It is not about, in women's fiction, it's about her character growth. And that character growth is what allows her to stop thinking of sex as sex, but thinking of it as something more. So recognizing that in your own work, now you have specific tools and specific stages that you can insert or revisit or not rush through. And you will end up with more sexual tension. But as readers, if we read something and they go from there they are, and you're kind of friendly with one another, then all of a sudden they hop into bed, it's discordant. And you find that in movies, you find it in TV, where all of a sudden they throw a couple together because they want some sexual tension. But what they do is they throw sex in. And that just actually cuts the tension down to nil, because it just becomes the act of sex and not an act of intimacy. So I'm really glad that you're here, and what you're learning and sharing right here is amazing, because that's the whole point. It is kind of like in the body language class, and some of you have taken that with me, where you don't even realize the missed opportunities until they're pointed out and you start playing with the concepts. So Good job, you. And Paulette has been hanging out with Aaron and giving you kudos, Aaron, because Paulette identified what an amazing, not only writer, but also somebody who's willing to work at the craft, even getting up at before the dawn. I think there's rules against that in most countries. They don't get up at those hours, said by a night person. So anyway, that homework number 4 is basically we're going to look at that kiss. Now, some of you were in the challenge for sexual tension, and we talked about a kiss there. Some people posted their homework there, but this is again another opportunity to revisit that because it does matter. Again, go back, way back for some of us to those first interactions with the opposite sex or the same sex, if that works better. And think of how you sweated over that first kiss, that one that made a difference. It was earth-shattering in a lot of ways because it was like, are my braces going to get caught? Are they going to kiss too much and want too much? Are they not going to kiss me at all? All those types of feelings can be endemic with that first kiss with someone that matters. All right. And Sarah, one of the other Sarahs, is saying if they have sex first, can they work backwards from the friend zone to in love? Yes, absolutely. So you can very definitely flip them intentionally. So you jump to a later stage and now you want to them, one or the other is going to pull back and want to, and you're going to revisit some of those earlier stages to make it clear that there is, that the sex by itself might have been good, but what they want is something more. So you go from casual sex to intimacy so that when they later have sex, you will see that it is different kind of sex. Nora Roberts actually does a great job of this in her book. She always starts, that first kiss is oftentimes literally by about page 60, give or take about 5 to 10 pages on either side of that. And the kiss is simply a marker in the sense that, okay, we're attracted, one is more attracted than the other and willing to admit it. So that kiss can be actually used to show the reader where they haven't yet achieved intimacy, but later on the kiss will change. Whereas before they gave a very nice and sweet kiss, and later on they give one of those kisses that is like, I want you forever, don't leave me kind of kisses. And she does that with her, the 12th stage, the sex. So if the first act of sex between the couple is lyrical and gentle, and one is trying to make sure the other one is comfortable and one is hesitant, that type of thing, the last act of sex before they break up. So at the, for romance writers, it's the black moment. For other writers, in the climax of the story, that they pull away from each other because they still have some issue or the conflict has not been resolved yet. That act of sex is going to be in direct contrast to that earlier one, because it's going to show that the characters change. So if they first time of sex, they have a very strong animal or bunnies humping or whatever it is in their sex work, that last act is going to be gentle and passionate and very different because their relationship has changed. So keep that in mind with your kisses. And Sarah, when you're working backwards, where you've had the characters have sex, because that's at their age, they can assume that's all they get. They can, it's just standard. Again, depending on the novel. And then later on, you can have the sex act means something totally different, but contrast them in how they, the casualness, that type of stuff. If it's very casual up front and it's like good, and then later on, it's a very different relationship. So it's kind of like for people that have been living together, and then they've made the commitment of marriage. And that can change people because now they're standing in front of their loved ones and their friends, and they're saying, I'm committing to you in the eyes of all these around us. And then the act of sex after that, particularly on the wedding night or afterwards, it changes because they realize they're in a different place. So if any of those type of things, situations that you have with your characters can be used to show that contrast between before and after. Okay, one other thing, homework 5 that we're going, there's homework 4 and there's homework 5. So I want you to identify them individually. Do not post them together because when you post them together, there gets to be a very long, and then it's just, if you do it homework 4 and then homework 5, it's easier for me to find it. And this is going to be the hand to body stage, stage 9. And again, it can be done in so many different ways, but the thing that I'm doing different with this particular homework is I am going to have you put in brackets what exactly, and I give you an example on the homework. So what's the emotional response? What is the specific awareness? What is the conflict in this 2 paragraphs that you have to play with? And the reason I'm doing this is that it doesn't always work when we use colors and then post to Facebook. Sometimes it wipes it out. So I want you to see, so you're actually looking at your words and you're saying, okay, this one's emotional response, but there's no conflict and there's nothing very specific that they're seeing. So when you're writing your own work and you're looking at where can I power up these stages or the sexual tension by highlighting them in color. For this course I've done, yellow is just, what are we looking at? We're looking at the hand, we're looking at the jaw, we're looking at the flare of the nose, whatever it is. And then what is the emotional response? How are you showing the reader how that point of view character is feeling or what they're seeing from the other character? And by learning to identify those, it's easier to see on your work as you move forward. Are you really getting it? Are you really doing what you think you're doing? Or are there, because you can see on some of the examples I use in the lectures that you read it once and it's like, we have a tendency to say, this is nice, or I like this. But then when I break it down in the analysis, you can see why you might like it. Well, the emotion is red or pink, depending on your color thing. So you don't have to use that, and I don't want you to use it in this example because it won't translate. So if you send something and you post it on Facebook, it will not translate. So that's why I'm having you put in brackets. This is the emotional response. This is you may have most emotional response, because the more emotional response you have, the more the reader is involved with understanding why this hand-to-hand matters, or what is specifically are they feeling, what are they aware of. All of that would be what you're calling pink and I'm calling red. But what we're doing for the assignment is putting it in brackets. And if you want to just say ER for emotional response, that's fine too. Or CON for conflict. And SPEC for specific awareness. You can do it that way too. But it kind of puts the onus on you to go a little bit further. Paula, no, it's not going to be posted on Facebook in the file section. It is with the homework. And it is the homework. It is with all the other lectures for this week. So it's in the Teachable Classroom, okay, where you get the downloads of other examples and all those things. The homework is in the classroom. Yes, it is not going on the file page. I said it was last week. I screwed up. So, any other questions here? Okay, other than Topaz, I think I caught up on everybody's posting. If I haven't caught up, let me know. But I tried to stay on top of those this week. So if you felt like you posted and you didn't get an answer, or some of what's happening is sometimes you post, I give a feedback, 2 or 3 other people give feedback, and then you post a rewritten version or a question or something in there, but it's in the body of that long thread, and I may not be seeing it. So this is your opportunity to ask other questions that you might have. Okay, Ginger, we just were saying that the homework is going to be in the Teachable Classroom. Homework number 4 is you're going to be looking at the stage 7 mouth to mouth. It's a kiss. So that's all. But instead, homework number 5, I want you to label so I can be sure that you're seeing what's on the page. Erin says, for some reason, you didn't come through live until 27 minutes in. Honey, can I ask you a question? I have to talk to Tech Guy, because one of the first things we do is we check to see if he's listening from another computer and listening to see if I'm alive. I'm being told that it didn't come through live until 27 minutes in.
That was on the receiving end. It was projecting live and with audio right from the beginning. I've been monitoring all that.
Okay, so that's on the receiving end. So
Yes.
Is there anything?
The replay should be clean.
Okay, so what, if for some reason it did not come through, because we can't control, he's been listening the whole time through, but the replay, it will be there. So the replay will catch you up. Thank you for asking that question, because that's one of the reasons we give replays too. So if you can't make it, or if there's a glitch wherever you are. So thank you for asking. Okay, Ginger, you said, you were for me, though. And you say, I just can't use my headphones for some reason. Again, that's an issue on your end. That might have to be something in your setup or something is not allowing that. But other people can definitely use headphones.
If they ever get the message that it's going live soon, when it should have already gone live, get out of the group and then go back in.
Okay, this might help for Aaron or anybody else that experiences where it says going live soon and you know it should be live because we do start at the hour, usually a few minutes before the hour. Tech Guy said, get out of the group and then come back in, because it could be, it has something to do with, it gets hung up on something. So sometimes just getting out and coming back in, it recognizes you, whereas before it was hung up on that live soon. So I'm sorry, particularly at 3 o'clock in the morning, that you had to deal with that issue. Okay, Sarah said that it's shown 0 time left. I'll refresh the page and then it's there. Logging out, logging back in. And I'm sorry that we have to deal with those. This is why I give it to Tech Guy, because it saves me from, tossing the computer across the room a lot. BA says, does homework number 4 have to be the first kiss for the couple, or can it be an early kiss but not necessarily the first one? What I actually specifically say is that it's going to be the first kiss that makes the characters aware that there's something more going on with them. So choose an example where the kiss changes both main characters in your story versus a kiss that is a preliminary, less tense moment. So since we're looking specifically at sexual tension, that less tense casual kiss is not really increasing the tension or making a change to the characters. So that's why I'm asking specifically for a kiss that matters to them versus just any kiss. So thank you for asking that question. And I made the note on the homework to post hashtag capital H4 as opposed to just hashtag 4 because I'm finding that makes it clearly homework, and it will set it aside because there's some 4s in there already that have nothing to do with this particular assignment. So I was trying to differentiate that. And the same with hashtag capital H5, no spaces, no anything else. So putting it in there. And again, that first kiss oftentimes can just be focusing on things other than the kiss, depending on what you're writing. But it's kind of like, again, those first dates where you dated someone that you were attracted to, the stumbling, etc., to have a kiss is not the same as when it worked. And it made both of you aware that there was something between you that was different, that this was not going to just be another date or another person. So that's why I ask for that. And again, next week, next Q&A, there'll be the last of the handouts. And today there's the handout on male body language, specifically flirting signals and then alpha male. That's going to be uploaded here a little bit later today. But next week, we're going to be looking at stage 10, mouth to breast, stage 11, hand to genital, stage 12, genital to genital. But for those not writing anything that graphic, there's still going to be information for you. And who knows, down the road, you might want that. There's going to be information about the aftermath, meaning what happens after they have sex, and that's handled in a lot of different ways. And then I've created at least two, possibly more, of other situations that might matter to the growing relationship. One of them is about the smile. One of them is about proxemics and how that spatial relationship can make, a difference to them. There's also going to be a template for a sex scene. And a template is just a way to be thinking as you go into this is it's a scene first. And it just happens to be that they're having sex for it. That doesn't mean both characters are coming into this scene from the same emotions, the same mindset. For one, it might be itch to scratch. And for someone else, it might be that as a result of that act, they've already passed into this person, I love them, which is different than just having sex. So that's template for a sex scene. There'll be the question about word choices that can help you, both adjectives and that you can start thinking in terms of, because want to make sure that you have time we won't have homework necessarily next week, but I might throw in something there just to keep you out of trouble. So we're right on the top of the hour. Aaron, go back to bed, please. Get your rest. And any questions, to hashtag Q, capital Q, not small q. And it makes it easier for me to make sure that I get those responded to quickly. So if we don't have more questions, Aaron's going back to bed, yay! So have fun this coming week, looking at the information, playing with the homework. Some of you will be in the challenge for plotting. It is not romance specific, but it is open to anyone who is writing in commercial fiction. And we'll just be looking at the 5 key points before you sit down, and you can plot a book off of those 5 points. You don't, if you really want to understand why, then you take the course. But if you're writing the same thing that you've always written and you just are looking for a way to be able to get into it quicker, you can do that with the 5 points that we'll be talking. And if you've taken the romance challenge, you probably know those 5 points anyway, but this will be much more focused on non-romance. So those who are writing mysteries, those who are writing thrillers, those who are writing, just stepping away and getting a better idea. Whatever you're writing, young adult, children's books, just having an idea of the key points in the structure can make a difference. Glad to see you there, Aaron. I know that we have a number of people from this course in there, but that doesn't mean you can use that for an excuse not to get homework done. The other thing too is if you've just been impacted by life, and it does happen, you can post the homework and whenever it works for you. I just don't want you to post it the last day of the class, because I may not be able to get responses to those postings. It just, each response can take half an hour to an hour responding. So to give you the best feedback, etc., give me a little more time before dropping multiple assignments at the very last. So I know things get in the way, but this is why I only give so much homework per week, and you have the whole week to play with them, etc. So Sarah enjoys the workshops and the Q&As a lot, and she's much more aware of these aspects or lack thereof in my writing. Sarah, doing the challenge and specifically doing the course means that you're cutting years off your learning curve. Most writers don't know what they don't know until they either get feedback from someone who actually has an idea, or editors or agents just flat saying, no, doesn't fit here, that type of stuff. And then we don't even know what to fix. So doing these challenges will give you some more specifics, and they're always free. It's just, take every opportunity you can. BA says, I'd love to join the challenge, but I have too much on my plate next week. You have 5-day challenges every month? No, I don't have them every month. I usually have a challenge right before I'm offering a course, so you can get an idea of what's in the approach to the course. So there will be, in the spring, there'll be one on body language challenge, and there'll be one on plotting for a romance. And that is very romance specific. This one is for non-romance, but you can still ask questions for romances in there, but it is the structure that is the same, whether you're writing a mystery, a thriller, a historical, futuristic, whatever it is, the structure is the same. So that's what we'll be doing. And I'm afraid I can't do these every week because one, takes a week of time from my end, and they're exhausting, just trying to keep up with them. So doing it every week would mean that basically I would be losing 3 months of my time just doing these. But I do try to put them in conjunction with a larger class. So those people, so you can say after the 5 days and say, what's next? Well, then there's an option that's next. But just doing them to do them, then I basically become a plot doctor in a lot of ways. But next year, there will be at least 4 challenges. 1 for general fiction, like we are now, 1 for body language, 1 for sexual tension, and 1 for romance plotting. And then as I move and have some other courses like hooks or setting, I'll do a challenge with those and then have an extended class so that you have some, and if the course doesn't work for you right then, it might be at a future time, and you can put it into the budget at a later time, or just know that it's out there. So great questions. And I appreciate you taking your time here. And you know where to find me if you do have questions, and I will be responding every day in the Facebook group to make sure that your postings will be answered. So love having you here. Erin, go to bed. The rest of us, everyone, have fun with your writing. So we'll see you in a bit.